Hi everyone, this is Maya with ShinKyu University. Today I'd like to bring to you a slightly different video than I have in the past. For those of you who've watched a little bit of my social media, you probably know that I absolutely love horses. I also love whitewater kayaking, being with my kids, being in the outdoors, and of course, Japanese acupuncture and moxibustion. So recently I've had the pleasure of working with a foundation called WHOA. It's an NPO here in Colorado that works to help to gentle wild mustangs to help ease their transition into the human world. Now, for those of you who are a little bit unsure about what happens in wild Mustang roundups, what happens to the wild Mustangs of the United States, I'd like to just give a little bit of information beforehand. First off, I never, ever, ever treat animals with anything but acutherapy or what would be called shonishin or a Teishin treatment. So I'm never inserting acupuncture needles. In fact, I never use an acupuncture needle on any animal as it is against the laws here in Colorado. I am not allowed to treat animals with acupuncture. However, Teishin treatment and moxibustion treatment is not considered acupuncture. It's considered more of, I would assume, a massage technique. There's absolutely no regulation for it here in the United States or in Colorado that I know of. If there is, be sure to tell me. So I utilize those techniques to treat horses, and just as it is with the kids that I treat, it's extremely, extremely effective. So that's just first off disclosure. Secondly, I'd like to go in and just talk a little bit about what these wild horses go through when they're rounded up. First of all, the lives they have outside on the range when they're rounded up, and then also the lives that they have when they're in captivity with humans. So I'm just showing you a brief clip of what happens in a roundup, and let's talk through kind of what happens and why these horses could really use our treatment. So first off, the horses that are rounded up on the range are rounded up usually with helicopter vehicle or people on horseback. They're run for sometimes thousands, if not hundreds of miles. Many sustain very serious injuries during the roundup, and it's a very traumatic experience, as you can imagine. A lot of the younger horses and horses that go off at a stray are roped, sometimes quite violently. Then they're put into small pens, which the horses do frantically try to get out. As you can imagine, that creates a lot of injury and PTSD about humans, if not severely injure them or kill them. And then they're put into cattle trucks and then taken into what's called long-term holding facilities. From that point, they are auctioned off to the public. At this point in time, the BLM is offering $1,000 cash to anybody who adopts a wild Mustang. So many people are taking the wild Mustangs, putting them on the range for a year until they obtain title, and then selling them for slaughter to either Mexico or Canada, in which they have continuing harrowing events that happen over the slaughter trucks over thousands of miles. These Mustangs are rounded up sometimes for political, sometimes for ecological reasons. Oftentimes it's to give range to the cattle that are already on the range. So to make sure to keep the grass for the cattle that's on the range. That's a very political subject though, and some people would disagree or not agree. In any case, you can definitely say that these horses go through a lot of trauma. And so once they get to the facilities like WHOA, in which they're going to be gentled for humans to then utilize for horseback riding or whatever, they have a lot of things to be working through. Okay, so obviously that gives you just a glimpse at what these Mustangs go through during the herding process. I haven't really talked a lot about them on the range. On the range, of course, they are wild horses, so they are being wild, they are getting hurt, they are hurting each other, they are sometimes even killing each other. Stallions have been known to kill other horses. They're wild animals, and so they act thus. And so there's a lot of issues that these horses have that, need to be addressed once they're going to be part of a domestic life. So most of these horses that are adopted into good homes, which those who are going through an organization like WHOA are really vetted to make sure that they're good homes. A lot of the horses in there are also horses that are coming from auction houses. So people will take these Mustangs and then sell them at the auctions for the slaughter. People are buying and rescuing those horses back. In any case, all of the horses that are going through WHOA in particular are needing to go into a lifestyle that is a domestic lifestyle with people for the most part. So The horse that I'm going to be treating in this clip is called Shock Top. Shock Top is an 8-year-old that was just a recent stallion on the range. He had just earned his own herd, which is a lot of work for these stallions, and then was put into long-term holding during COVID probably. I'm not sure exactly on his roundup time, and then subsequently gelded at 8. So it's a really long time to wait to be gelded. Something that just to notice from the beginning, I don't want to do too much overlay while I'm treating. I want you to be able to watch the horse, but watch just how much the horse's neck goes from here, right, to calm. Another thing you can look for especially in animals, not only watching how much the neck drops, because when they're in high alert, their head's up so they can see, right? And they can also run quickly, but also how their eyes look. Are their eyes wide? Saucer eyes, you know, like you can see the whites around the pupils, or are they relaxed, or almost kind of sleepy and droopy? How tight the jaw is extremely important in horses, because when their jaw is tight, they're actually not breathing very much. They're holding their tongue and they're not moving their mouth. They are in flight or fight. And so the whole point of my treatment is to not only take them out of flight or fight, put them into the parasympathetic, but also start to release some of these areas in the body, more energetic areas in the body that are holding tension, to allow them to relax into their situation. Some of the horses I am addressing physical, like muscle meridian types of things. But for the most part, for the semi-gentled, which Shock Top is, he's not fully gentled mustangs, it's more of an energetic. And there's other things I had wanted to treat on this horse, but I just didn't have access to because I didn't feel that he was safe enough for me to be able to access those points at that time. As always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the little bell to be notified of all things amazing and geeky about Japanese acupuncture and moxibustion.
He is... like, he'll do everything, and he has never been mean. He's never even made a face at me. Never tried to kick, but you know, he's just very tense. And I mean, I don't know so much about structural things, but his neck constantly looks uncomfortable to me.
Okay.
You know, he hardly ever lowers his head.
Are you able to turn his head to the side yet?
A little bit.
Can you maybe just walk him around for me so I can see how he moves? Just gonna walk sideways, are you?
Well, he's afraid because he doesn't know who he needs to watch.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
And he was horribly beat up.
Was he?
Yeah. Part of it was, first of all, I mean, he had just become a band stallion when he was gathered. So, I mean, he had to work hard for that one.
Yeah.
And also, the BLM couldn't geld forever because of COVID and contract issues with DOC.
Yeah.
So all of these intact stallions were in these pens together and just having it out because they could still smell the mares even though they were all separated.
Well, I guess I should start at the beginning and just approach with them, yeah?
Yeah, and sometimes I even tell people just walk with them. Because sometimes they like it better if you kind of walk away from them and walk with them if you want the rope. And like I said, he responded fine to Kayla. And sometimes when a horse won't let somebody near him, I just tell people to go through the gentling process and like fast forward, you know, walk with him and then touch him with the whip, touch him with the flag until you can get close. He tries and he can focus real well because he's older. He's just worried all the time. I mean, Apollo was a little bit like that, just more confident.
Okay, at this point, I'm just going to do a little bit of talking about what I'm trying to accomplish because the sound quality isn't amazing from this point on. So the first thing that I'm really trying to do is approach the horse and make sure that Shock Top is comfortable with me being next to him. Because again, he's only a partially gentled Mustang. He's still not 100% okay with humans being near him. At this point in the treatment, I did ask Stephanie Skidmore, who's coming back into the screen, to take the fly mask off the horse. This horse has a fly mask on, if you did hear, because he is missing part of his eyelid. Maybe that happened when he was in the holding pens. Maybe he got into a fight with another stallion. Maybe he got his eyelid caught on a pole. You never really know. Horses tend to hurt themselves a lot. The fact that this horse was even able to have a fly mask put on him at this point in his gentling is pretty amazing, and it says something to his ability to be relaxed about humans and to really think through what's happening to him. The reason why I want the fly mask off is because I rely really heavily on the expression of the horse's eyes, and I also really want to see the jaw of this horse, because as I mentioned before, it's really important to relax the jaw of the horse, because that leads to relaxation in the whole rest of the body. If the jaw is not relaxed, then the rest is not relaxed. So here the horse just was like, I'm not so sure about that. I don't think so. And Stephanie is an extremely good trainer. So that's why she was just like, no, you're okay. Come on back. You're going to be just fine. You can still see, though, that, the horse is very apprehensive. He definitely has his neck up. He's definitely back on his hind trying to pull away just in case he has to protect himself. And putting this fly mask on and off with a partially gentled horse or a completely gentled Mustang is actually not the easiest task. So
What do you see with him so far? Other than all this tension.
what you're seeing the next stuff.
I mean, that neck looks like
Look
it's just...
how much better you're blinking now, buddy. Good job.
No, his head always looks like it's been corkscrewed on.
Yeah, I would agree with you. He needs a lot of work in his jaw. I wouldn't be surprised if his teeth really need to be floated.
And I mean, I looked into Micah's mouth. I haven't looked into his mouth much yet, but Micah got kicked in the mouth.
Oh.
So some of them have really, really ugly, messy teeth.
So everything I've done since the moment I touched the lead rope was to create a relationship with this horse. And what I'm really trying to do is tell this horse, Shock Top, that as long as you move your feet, I'm going to go away. That Shock Top, you have control of this situation. And if you want to ask me to move away, I'll move away. In the very beginning, it was more of just him glancing at me and him recognizing me there. Here I'm asking him to move his feet. I let go of the lead rope. This is, of course, not treating with acutherapy, but it's extremely necessary, I believe, in any situation that you're treating, that the first thing you do is create a relationship, and in a relationship that says you're in control of this relationship, not me, meaning the patient is in control, the practitioner is not. And what I'm doing here is just really telling Shock Top that, hey, you have control. If you don't want me to touch you, I'm not going to touch you. And then here when I come to start approaching him with the acutherapy tool, with the Teishin, I'm saying, hey, I'm going to touch you. And if you don't like it, you have a safety word. His safety word is to simply turn his head and to look at me. And so he at any point can tell me, hey, I don't want you to touch me anymore. Right here in his neck, I'm actually trying to treat a little bit of his spine that's out. You can see him twitching. That's just because the flies are really, really bad at this point. The flies are just horrible, and so they're twitching to get it off. Any point where a horse licks and chews, you can see Shock Top's head slowly start to click downwards. All of these are cues that he's starting to relax a little bit. Whenever his eye goes wide or if his head goes up, that's a cue that he's a little bit more on edge, and that maybe that point isn't a good point for him. These are the exact same cues, by the way, that I would use with any pediatric client. You can see here, like, he's almost fighting relaxing his head down, and then he's starting to just say, oh, actually that feels kind of nice, and I can relax a little bit. He still hasn't taken a good deep breath. One of the best shows of a horse relaxing is a horse yawning or a horse having a really good shake, and that's a really excellent way for them to release their sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic. You can see as I come up towards his pole, he's a little bit less sure about this. Now, usually when I treat acupuncture, acutherapy, Teishin work, or moxibustion, I'm almost always asking the person to face what they're doing with their dantian. This is the one of the few cases where I don't, because if I were to face this horse full on with my full front body towards him, it's going to be a lot more aggressive than if I'm at a slight angle away from him. An aggressive move, of course, is to be at a full front angle, hands open, fingers wide open, like a cat ready to pounce and kill. And again, this is a wild Mustang, that had to fight for its survival for 8 years. So just keep that in mind. Here I'm finally starting to approach his jaw. Really, I wanted to do a lot more work in his jaw, but again, I just didn't feel comfortable going that quickly to that point. And you can see now his head is finally starting to drop. He's taking deeper breaths with his nose, still not a full deep breath, but he's starting to blink for longer periods of time. He's got his ear on me, which is one of the horse's way of saying, hey, I'm paying attention to you. I see that you're there. He's still a little bit worried about me, and he's still not completely trusting me, but it's a situation at this point where he's like, that actually feels kind of nice. When I move up towards his face a little bit more, you can see the head comes back up, and he gets a little bit more nervous about that.
I think you're all done. You seem a little tired now. I think you're all done, buddy. Thank you for letting me work with you. You could just gently move your lips. Got it.
And I ended the treatment, although there was a lot of other things I wanted to address in the back of this horse, on the legs of this horse, under the belly of this horse. There were so many other things that I could have utilized, of course, in this treatment. But for the first treatment on a semi-gentle horse, my only goal, and really my only goal when I treat a pediatric case that has maybe severe PTSD, is trying to create a relationship with that animal and also teach that animal or that human being that whatever I'm doing for your benefit. You have control over this experience. I don't have to be here if you don't want me here. If you don't like it, you can tell me no and I will stop. And that whatever I do for you, I'm doing in order to help you relax and come from the sympathetic down to the parasympathetic. And really for this horse, I thought that was the biggest thing that he needed, because he's going through the gentling process, which is a lot at one time. He's learning how to lead, halter, pick up his feet, go into a trailer, be around humans. And then after this, he was sent to a different trainer in order to learn how to be under saddle, have a rider on his back, and lots of other things, So at this point in his career and his experience with humans, the biggest thing that I could do for him, while there were a lot of physical things I could have helped him with, a little bit with his legs and his back, the biggest thing I thought I could do for him at that moment was help him become more relaxed in the situation that he was in humans. And I believe very, very deeply that we hold our tension and our stress and our trauma within our muscles and within the body. And if through the acupuncture and acutherapy and moxibustion, we're able to release that, that's where that huge change comes from letting out the trauma from the body and then allowing the body to function the way it does. In Japanese acupuncture, oftentimes this trauma is looked at as jaki or pernicious ki. It can also show up in, of course, different forms that can create blockages in the body. But especially in Japanese acupuncture, we're looking at, okay, what's the outside of the onion? What piece can we take off in order to then get to the core of it that we really need to fix and make sure that this individual is really healthy. This idea of mebiol, which is before disease or pre-disease, fixing the body before it gets sick, right? Fixing the situations that can lead to illness. And especially for horses, one of the biggest things you have to be careful of is colic, which is where they get a stomach ache. Many of the reasons why humans get a stomach ache is because we're stressed out, and it's not different at all for horses. When horses get stressed out, they colic, and they can actually die from colic. And so one of my biggest things again for this horse was, you can calm down. Let's let go of some of that emotional tension in your body. Was it enough release? God, no. I could have done so much more. There would be so many more sessions that I would have loved to do with this horse, but it was a good first step. So I did treat a few other horses on this same day. I'm going to be making different videos about those, so that way it doesn't get too long. So stay tuned for those. If you liked this video, you want to hear more, if you have any questions or comments, please don't forget to put them down in the comment section. I'm going to be linking WOA in the description box. They're an amazing NPO organization, and also in the beginning I utilized an organization for the roundup video. I will put them in the description as well. If you would like to donate to WOA, I highly suggest that you do. They do amazing work. My personal Mustang that I adopted was through the organization of WOA and trained by Stephanie Skidmore. I really do love their work. If you would like to learn more about Japanese acupuncture and mox combustion and start creating foundations to be able to be used with any creature on this planet, please do check out ShinKyu University. You can also comment below to get an interview set up, or you can click on the link in the description box to set up that interview. I really enjoyed our time together, and until I see you next time, happy practicing.